Hello guys, welcome back to the channel. In this stream, we'll be chatting about the brilliant win at Brighton, the potential incomings and outgoings ahead of deadline day tomorrow, and also we'll preview the Luton Town game, which is also tomorrow night. So I'm joined by John from JPWHU TV and James from Each One His Own TV. Subscribe to their channels if you haven't already. Links in the description below. And subscribe to Gage Football as well for more vlogs, watch-alongs, and other content such as this. So lads, appreciate your time. Thanks for joining. So plenty to get into. So let's get on without any further ado. Let's chat about the brilliance at Brighton. I mean, James, you were on last week with Tony. We were chatting about the Brighton game, but the curse is over, mate. It's all over. Finally,
over in like unbelievable fashion. I've got to be honest. I was really impressed. Really impressed with West Ham last week. I thought they defended well, counter-attacked excellent, and yeah, it was superb, absolutely superb.
Yeah, I think we even the most optimistic of West Ham fans wouldn't have predicted a win, let alone a fucking 3-1 win with three good goals, particularly the second and third one. I mean, John, thanks for coming on again, mate.
Thanks, mate.
Appreciate
Thanks for having me on.
What were your I haven't really spoken to you since the game. I think we're just still we're still on the come down, mate. But what were your thoughts? And obviously a brilliant result, but also what would you make of the game and how well West Ham played?
Yeah, to be honest with you, get the party started.
Yeah, I was going to say he's got his I'm ready for it.
I crashed that out for a while. Did that and done that for a little while. I used to do that with the what was last time I was on, actually? I think we did straight after one of the Europa League games.
Yeah.
It was still going. But no, phenomenally well. I said at the time, well, Bill, we were talking about it before the Chelsea game, that, you know, I'd take 5 points from the first three. You know, we'd obviously had the draw with Bournemouth, but who would have thought that we would have had 7 points? Nobody, I don't even think William Hill would have put a bet on high enough for us to be able to do that. To be fair, you know, everybody was worried. We thought the running at the start of the season was going to be terrible for us, you know. But you know, it was for not as James, as you absolutely said, mate, spot on with that. You know, we defended for our lives brilliantly. We countered attack on just absolutely tore them apart, and also for the same point. Along those sort of lines, if we were a more attacking team, we could have had 6 or 7 out of that game. We genuinely could have done, and that's not even with the, you know, Paquetá's failed try. Antonio could have had a hat trick. Yeah. Bowen could have had at least a brace. The sky's the limit from that point of view. But great to see James Ward-Prowse get a goal, a goal and 2 assists from his first 2 games for us. You know, he's played the entire length of both games as well for that. Well, pretty much both of those. Alvarez is unbelievable first.
What performance that was on the debut,
yeah, it's just absolutely brilliant. It's just cloud 9, mate, and let's hope we can continue that going on to tomorrow night's game.
Yeah, no, totally. I mean, James, obviously, can't have it all as a West Ham fan. I mean, there's some fans, I'm sure you might have seen them, have them on your channel or certainly on socials, where the dreaded possession 22%, you know, like for me, obviously the most meaningless stat in the whole of football. But, you know, some fans beat David Moyes. That's a stick to beat him with. But, I mean, what do you make of that criticism? At the end of the day, the most important stat in any football match is the scoreline, isn't it?
Exactly that, mate. I've had many debates over the last few days about this style of play versus winning football. Give me winning football any day of the week. Do you know what I mean? We've had style of play over the years at West Ham. We've never really done anything like to justify the style of play that we're playing. Do you know what I'm saying? I think Moyes gets a lot of criticism. Yeah, some of it rightfully so, some of it not rightfully so. People are still complaining about the style of play, and we've scored 6 goals in 2 games. Like, that's pretty mad to me. Do you know what I'm saying? But
well, 7 with the Bournemouth.
Even 7 with the Bournemouth, but with the 2 wins, scoring 3 goals home and away, like, you've got to give him some credit. Listen, I understand it where people will get a bit sort of nervous with it because you can't defend all your life and then wait to hit a team on the break and try and nick the game 1-0. But whatever he's doing, you've got to give him respect at the minute. And that's hard, but you've got to give him respect because we're unbeaten at the start of the season. It's going to be interesting, like I said before, how we get on it when we go a goal down. Like with the style of play that he's playing, if we go a goal down, we're gonna then have to come out and then start attacking teams. But I don't know. I look at West Ham this season, for me personally, and I just see a different side altogether. I see a more together side. I see a side full of people who are prepared to fight in games, grind out victories. And listen, as a fan, that's what all I want to see is a team that's committed to the shirt.
Yeah, no, I completely echo that. I mean, John, I mean, I assume you feel the same about the possession, surely. I mean, obviously, especially away from home, playing that way against a brilliant team who keep the ball like Brighton, that's the way to go. But if you're at home against Luton or whatever, then obviously the style of plays will have to be a little bit different.
To a degree, mate. I mean, Russ is going to hate me for saying this, but the possession is only important to Arsenal fans. Nobody else in the entire Christendom cares about it, right? It's like, for example, and going back to when Hull beat Arsenal 5-1 many, many moons ago now, right? Arsenal had 80-odd% possession and they lost 5-1. I was mates with an Arsenal fan, and he said, "Well, we had that." I said, "But yeah, but what did you do with it? You scored a goal."
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't matter. You're absolutely right, Bill. What the scoreboard is the most important stat out of the lot.
Yeah.
Right. Yes. And James, I agree with it, that. You know, Moyes has had a lot of criticism from it, but we beat a team that we haven't beaten for 12 years straight. Yeah. And also for that, we beat a team. We scored 3 goals against a team that scored 8 in the first 2 games of the season. I do think this is the start of the fabled next level, because James, you're absolutely right. Where it comes, it is a team that's more organised. Last year was what's the word? It was an experiment, for lack of a better way, because the focus was on Europe, clearly on Europe. You know, we went through that completely unbeaten. You know, but you know, winning a title for winning a trophy for the first time since the day I was born, and starting off against the teams that we have, where everyone was getting worried. Yeah, Moyes deserves a lot of credit, but and then again, so do the players. You know, it's you take Alvarez and Ward-Prowse out of the side. That's pretty much exactly the same squad that was playing last season. So it proves that everybody is understand each other's roles now, whereas last season you could argue some did, some didn't, which is one of the reasons why a lot of players were starting last season.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with everything you said there, John. James, obviously, the same with like the Chelsea game, like against Brighton. It's hard for me. It was hard to name a man in a match because a player in a match, because there were a load of real standout candidates. But if I had to pick one, like you must pick one, for me it was Alphonse Areola, because some of his saves, particularly second half, I think a couple from Ferguson, one the header, and I think it was another shot. I mean, surely, I think we sort of know anyway, but surely that performance has cemented his number 1 status.
Oh, he's been brilliant, mate. Been brilliant. Let's be honest. There's always been the debate in regards of Fabianski and Areola, like who should be number 1, who should be sitting on the bench. And obviously, it comes to a bit of a shock from Fabianski when he's sitting on the bench against Bournemouth. Do you know what I mean? So, since Areola's played, he's been brilliant. He's been really, really good. And like I had this discussion on, I think it was Twitter Space early in the week, and I said, you don't go and play for Real Madrid and PSG if you're rubbish. Like you've got to be half decent. Do you know what I'm saying? So I thought he was excellent. I thought Alvarez, I thought was superb. I think the way he shifted from midfield to defence, and how he sort of read the game as a whole, I think was absolutely first class, if I'm being honest. And like when Declan Rice left, we was all sceptical about how we're going to go around this now. Like we're losing one of our best players. It's the heartbeat at the side. But if you do look at the spine of the team, from the goalkeeper all the way up to the striker, we're actually pretty good. Like we're actually pretty good in that sort of spine. It's just adding the final bits of the jigsaw to to get the final picture sort of thing. But for me, I thought Bowen was excellent, but Mikel Antonio was on it last week, big time.
That's superb, wasn't
he? That was one of the best performances I've seen with him, and I'm very, very, very critical of Antonio, extremely critical. But I thought he was just ragdolling their sort of defenders, bullying them. I think he scored a great goal. He could have scored another one, and he was just a menace all day.
Yeah, no, I'm glad you said about Antonio, because he's involved in all our play, and crucial for at least 2 of the goals. I mean, the first, obviously one he scored, but like the first one, he harried Webster. Could easily just left it, harried him. Webster made a mistake. Obviously, assist for Ward-Prowse, and obviously his turn on Webster. Webster's a very good defender, by the way, and he made him look like a non-league defender. I'm sure Webster's having nightmares about Antonio now this week. Do you know what I mean? So and his turn and finish was first class. As they should have got another one, but he played what starts the season he's had. I mean, John, who else? I mean, we could make probably a whole video on that stood out against Brighton, but which ones for you stood out for you?
It is difficult to pick, mate, because just going off the back, the coattails of what you're just saying there, Antonio set up the ball to Ben Rama for Bowen's goal as well, for that matter. I think that's gone under the radar a little bit. Totally. And likewise, but I think Ben Rama was one of his better games again. It really, really was. I know he was a little bit distant in the Chelsea game, and to a lesser, even more extent, I should say, in the Bournemouth game. But again, I can't think of anybody. You could argue if you want. If I'm going to be critical, you could say Areola had 2 mistakes, but didn't.
He dropped in the net, didn't he?
Yeah, and also when he was trying to play the ball out to Soufal, and he did a Joe Hart special, and it went about 8 yards over the touchline right at the start of the game. But as I say, he redeemed himself from that point of view. But Bill, as you know, I've been asking for Areola to be in goal ever since we had him on loan, much less this season.
Yeah.
So I can't think. You could argue the communication that led to Gross's goal. It went through 4 or 5 players, but we were 3-0 up at that point. It doesn't matter from that point of view, but it's a concern if that doesn't get rectified, especially if bearing in mind who we're playing next weekend. But in general, no, I genuinely can't really finger point anybody of having a bad game, and you can't really, like you said earlier, mate, you can't really pick out one individual player over the other because they all did their jobs perfectly. They all did the runs beautifully. How the hell did Antonio stay on side for a whole game? But again, he doesn't usually do that. He's usually about 2 or 3 times.
No strange things happening when that's occurring, eh?
But yeah, no, it was a phenomenal performance, and let's hope that continues for as long as possible.
No, here, definitely. Right, let's move on to. This could be the longest part of this stream we've shown before, and deadline day is tomorrow, as well as the Luton game. We'll touch on incomings and potential outgoings. We're going to throw a few names out. I'm going to read a couple of things from Dharma Chef of Sky, of course. Looks like West Ham are going to, unlikely to pursue a deal for recruitment forward Yuri Alberto. I think Tim Stardom was in Brazil this week, but we're only talks with PSG for Hugo Ekitike. Obviously, Jesse Lingard's on a free. That can obviously look like we're going to sign him on a short-term deal, which don't have to worry about deadline day because he's a free agent. But one name I would like to start with, lads, who I'm sure we all talked about extensively last summer, was at the time he was on track Frankfurt, but now of Juventus, Filip Kostic. Juve value him apparently between 20 and 25 million. West Ham are looking at a loan deal or potentially a permanent deal. I mean, so they only joined Juventus last summer, but he hasn't played at all for the Italian team this season. So, I mean, John, you excited about the possibility of getting Kostic at the club?
Other than what we saw last season, the season before last, I don't really remember much about him. So I'm not really overly. I know he's a good player. Mate, you know what my European knowledge is. If it's West Ham ain't about it, or we ain't seen it on one of your watch-alongs, I don't really know too much about the players. But no, I can understand the reason for getting him in, because he's quite a versatile player, and I get it. Yeah, he's like you touched on there. He's been a fringe player for Juventus as well since the start of the season as well, and I think towards the end of it, 20-25 million for a fringe player. 10 years ago, we would have absolutely laughed at that. Now it's an average. It's about average for any player, for that matter, much less anything else. So, from that point of view, it could be quite a big bargain. I mean, yeah, you're absolutely right about the Corinthians kid, because at the end of the day, the club didn't want to sell. I mean, why let Steiden fly all the way over there, negotiate for 3/4 of the day, and go, actually, do you know what? No, we don't want to sell him. But it's transfer window and these things happen. But if Steiden seems to be working really, really well with his targets, with everybody involved, because obviously Noble was involved in recommending Alvarez. and obviously that, you know, off the back of that, Kudos was identified, etc., etc. So, you know, I'm buzzing with it, but as I say, as long as he can be versatile, because obviously, I guess he's going to replace one of the outgoings, which you're going to talk about in a minute.
Yeah.
And to be fair, if he's an upgrade on one of those, then fair play, bring him in. As far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I think I'd be all over this. I think, particularly from a loan point of view, I wouldn't be against a permanent transfer, but a loan, especially as Aaron Cresswell's been linked heavily with leaving. Imagine we had a left back or left wing back options of Emerson and Kostic to pick from. That's fucking insane. Do you know what I mean? So, what about that potential move for Kostic? Then, James, you must be buzzing about that.
I think he's a great signing, mate. Absolutely superb. Yeah. Listen, last year I was gutted when we didn't get him. I don't think he's coming in as being a left back. I think he's coming in to take over Maxwell Cornet's position and be a sort of like a squad rotation player. One thing with Kostic, what I like about him is he's dynamic and you can play in multiple positions. He plays a left wing back or even a left wing.
Always favourites, isn't it? Those kind of players.
And what it is, if he does the job for us and he can go back to the Eintracht Frankfurt Kostic and not the Juventus one, I think we've got a really, really good player. Me personally, I'll take him on loan for a season, see how he gets on, right, get him in here, and then sort out him next season if he performs with a view to a permanent. But I like the way West Ham are doing their business this year. Like they're identifying talent and they're identifying people who they know will come in and do the job. And I think he's a very, very good player.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Any other names you want? Let's talk about a couple of potential outgoings actually before we come to incoming. So I was reading in the standard on the way home. Everton, obviously, they're desperate for forwards. Although one scored in his debut against, obviously, the mighty Doncaster last night. It looked pretty tasty, actually. But
I think that might have escalated their conversation somewhat, don't you?
But they still need some. Obviously, Mope can't score for Toffee, and Calvert-Lewin is constantly on the treatment table. So they need forwards. And Maxwell Cornet's been linked with Everton, actually. I mean, with Cornet, obviously, he was injury hit. But James, would you look to keep him? And hopefully he tries to get that Burnley form back, or would you try and cash in and get someone else in?
I would let him go out on loan for a season with Everton, because you just never know with some players. I'm very much reluctant to try and sell him, because it wouldn't surprise me if he goes to Everton and does really, really well. Let's be honest, his time at West Ham, he's been. He played
under obviously Dyche at Burnley, didn't he? Obviously as well.
Burnley, yeah. So he's got that sort of relationship up there. Do you know what I mean with Sean Dyche? The only thing I will say is that if we do sell him, then it might be one that get away. But I would loan him to Everton for a season, see how he gets on. And if they want to buy him at the end of the season, then great. If they don't and he does perform, West Ham have got the option to keep him.
Yeah, very sensible. John, would you let Cornet go, or would you try and keep him?
I'm in two minds about it for exactly the same reason James was saying there. I think it's very harsh if we let him go under any circumstance, because he didn't really have that much of a campaign last season. It's just bloody typical. We buy a player and then he gets a knee condition that only one other specialist has ever seen in his entire life.
That's the West Ham.
I mean? It's typical West Ham. It really is.
That's that's the West Ham way.
That's West Ham on fantasy football. That is. It really bloody is. But I do think that the Everton link is a little bit lazy. Yeah, Sean Dyche. They need a winger. They need a forwards. Who's available? Or Cornet could be. He hasn't been. Do you know what I mean? But at the same point, I can see the thinking behind it. But yeah, it would be harsh to let him go. If they do decide to sell him, I hope we follow the European model and put a sell-on clause in there, because he might not be around the Premier League for that much longer. That's what my instincts are saying on it. But at the same point, I don't think he's going to give Ben Rama too much competition, because of the players we've already brought in that can play in multiple positions and are adaptable, on top of what James is saying about Matt Kostic as well, for that matter. So from that point of view, Cornet is a fringe player, and if he's on a pretty wage as well, for that matter. So I think that's probably the real reason why they're trying to, the idea of him going out elsewhere. If he stays, I'd be happy. If he goes out on loan, I'd be happy. If we sell him and we don't think ahead, I mean, I'm surprised we didn't think ahead with Rice, to be fair. But You know, it's screaming. That's transfer screaming out to have a sell-on clause. It really, really did. But yes, it's either way. If we sell him properly, I'll be disappointed. But if he goes on loan and he fights for his position like Danny Ings is trying to do at the moment, from what we're reading, then I'll be happy either way with that from that point of view.
Yeah, I think for me, I'd rather try and keep him because there is a player there. We saw that at Burnley, but
well, we saw that against Chelsea away this time last year, mate. He was, he was phenomenal in that game.
And then he got injured not long after that, wasn't it? So,
Correct.
no, I'd rather try and keep him. But look, if we do get rid of him, it would be like I wouldn't sell him permanently. But I trust what the club are doing at the moment, transfer wise. So if they decide to sell him permanently, okay, we'll have to take it on the chin. So it's one of those things. So let's talk. Free agent, obviously formerly off West Ham a couple of years ago on loan, Jesse Lingard. Obviously, he's been training with the club for a few weeks. I mean, John, would you take Jesse on it looks like that's going to take place. I mean, we can offer him. Don't have to offer him tomorrow because he's a free agent, so we can leave it a few weeks. But would you be happy with a short-term deal for Jesse Lingard, or would you be against it?
No, I'd be more than happy for him to do it because at the end of the day, he did what any other of us would have done. You know, he was offered a higher paying wage, and he thought, okay, fair enough, I'll do it. You know, it's work for those guys. It's like the same with all of us. If we were headhunted for another job, doing the same job but for more money, you'd go there in the snap. So I don't really see what everybody's issue is about it. I agree with the way that people are getting pissed off with it because of how we handled things from other points of view. But at the same point, he's a kid. You know, we all make mistakes when we're early to mid-20s, man. You know, life is full of mistakes. From a purely footballing point of view, 100% take him. Versatile player, can play in most positions in the attacking midfield and wings, etc. Second striker, do a damn sight better job than Danny Ings would. That's for damn sure. You know, that's and I think that's one of the reasons why they're trying to get rid of Ings. I reckon is because they want to bring in Lingard to fill up that position. But yeah, I would. I'd be happy with that. He certainly could give Ben Rama a fight for that position. And you know, if we're gonna see Mubama at some point, I think a front three scenario of Mubama, Lingard, and Antonio, as long as he keeps his form up and isn't putting himself out in the window as it hasn't closed yet, then yeah, bring it on, 100%.
Yeah, I think a few weeks ago, if you've said to me, we'll take Lingard in any situation, I'd be really against it. Not for what happened last year or whatever. Just more like I thought it'd be like, well, we sign him and then no one else. That was the old West Ham, but with Steiden and what's happened. So right, okay. Basically, I see him as a Lanzini replacement, where like he'll come off the bench, plays an attacking midfield role. I mean, we saw what he did on loan with us. He was brilliant. If he can, I wouldn't say get back to that form, but even just perform half decently off the bench and now on a short-term deal, not crazy money, Jack Wilshere money. Like, do you know what I mean? Or anything stupid. I think he would do a job for us for whether 6 months or a season, and he plays well for us. It'd be worth for me, it would be worth that investment. What do you think, James?
This one's a bit hard for me because I understand what people say about the money, but it's the way he handled it, which was really bad. I think he sort of strung us along a few times, Jesse Lingard. If you all go back to when we signed him on loan, we thought we was getting him in that sort of summer, and he decided to stay at Old Trafford. Rightfully so. He wanted to stay there, he wanted to fight for his place, and he's a Manchester United fan. But it's just the and armour of the man, which has been a bit of a problem over the last few years. So obviously, we signed Vlasic, that didn't work out, wasted a lot of money there. And then last year, when he did become a free agent, it was like nailed on he was going to come to us. And then right at the death, he decides to swerve us with sort of mysterious messages and go to Forest, where his career has been a bit of a flop. Do you know what I mean? Honestly, the only man that can save Jesse Lingard is David Moyes at the minute. Because there is his career is pretty much in the mud at the minute. I don't see many clubs queuing.
Certainly at the top level, anyway.
Yeah. So when I do look at him, he needs David Moyes in his life to get his career back on track. Now, as a player, he's very good. When he was at West Ham, he was extremely good. He's one of the best loans I think ever in the Premier League for a 6-month spell.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
But But as a man, he's got to learn that he's got to show a bit more respect to the fan base in regards of like when he does play. If he does sign for West Ham, it's all about West Ham, and it ain't all about how much he's earning and what watch he's got. You know what I'm saying? So, if we sign him and he performs to the level that I think is acceptable, I think every West Ham fan be over the moon with that because he's an impact sub. He could potentially even be a starter if he performs.
Yeah, the amount of games we're going to play again, we're in Europe, we'll see again. So yeah, definitely.
And he's a sort of player that you can have around the squad that gives like a good feel-good factor. It's sold on Jesse Lingard now, right? If he wants to sort himself out and have a career as a footballer at the highest level, he's at the club to do that, and he's got the manager that has got the best out of him probably ever, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, no, completely agree. Right, let's go to the chat. Russ, Arsenal fan, thanks, mate. Thanks for joining.
Evening. Who's Evening? Is that a new transfer? Is it Evening?
I think it's still he's their favourite manager ever, Unai Emery. Let's touch on another potential outgoing, Danny Ings. I mean, we only signed him in January, and it's August, and there's talk of him actually leaving. So it sums out how bizarre the transfer was probably from the start, even let alone now. So I mean, James, do you think Ings should go? I mean, he just doesn't. Not his fault, but it just doesn't suit the way we play, which obviously screams the transfer is more of a panic buy each passing day.
David Sullivan signing, mate, 100%. When you've got a man who just decides to get offered the player and he goes and gives him 125 grand.
Here we go.
He's just not worth the money, is he? Now, do you know what? I think Danny Ings let me chuck a team out there. Bournemouth, for instance, would do a pretty good job. Like somewhere of that nature. At West Ham, the way we play, he's not the man. He really isn't. Do you know what I'm saying? And I think we do need two strikers, not just one. I think because if you're relying on Antonio to be fit all season, then that's a big commitment for a man who has had previous injuries problems. But Danny Ings, I'd get rid of him myself, mate. I would. I'll try and cut that contract down. I'll try and let him go, take a loss on it, move on, go and sign someone like Hugo Ekitike from PSG on a loan with a view to a permanent.
We'll touch on him in a minute. Yeah.
And then I think we'll be all right.
And for you, John, would you let Ings go?
100%. Problem is, we should have had him 7 years ago. We shouldn't have got. We shouldn't have gone.
That's West Ham fans, John.
We shouldn't have gone for Zaza. We should have gone for him. Yeah. You know, it was
okay. Flashbacks now.
Seriously, honestly, that was the right time to give it. I know, obviously, because he went on to Liverpool, etc., etc. But that was the right time. It was if West Ham were ever going to get him, it was then. That was the moment that we should have had him.
Or when Villa bought him.
Yeah.
Well,
2 seasons ago, wasn't it?
Something like that.
Something like that, yeah. But I do think Danny Ings in his prime was 6-7 years ago. That's when we should have really got him. James, you're absolutely right. You know, an eighth of a grand, was it 120,000 a week plus whatever goal bonuses, etc., etc. Of course, he's going to want to stay here and fight for his position. He's not going to get that anywhere else.
We're all doing the same thing at a different club. You know what I mean?
But yeah, exactly. You know, but it's ridiculous. You're right. We're not suited to the way that he was. It was, you know, there was the arguments around at the time, and I think we talked about it in January build that it was setting up for relegation just in case. But yeah, I don't think he's doing anything wrong. I mean, he did a really good goal clearance against Brighton last weekend. So there's checks and balances, but unfortunately, there's more balances than there are checks with this one. I love Danny. I think he's been a phenomenal player. You know, for the limited time that he was available for England, he was brilliant for England as well. For that matter, it was a handful of performances, but yeah, it's just it was James. You're absolutely right, mate. It was a panic buy, and yeah, it's just a Sullivan special. But a lot of the time, Sullivan specials work out, but this one didn't, unfortunately.
This one didn't. No, okay. Let's talk about an academy player. Who had a blow past season pretty kindly was Ben Johnson. I mean, John, again, he's another player who's been linked with a move away or potentially a loan away. I mean, would you, For me, I would keep Ben because I think I would like to think that be his worst season, and hopefully he'll just get better. But
Mm.
then again, if not a good offer comes in, it's hard. Every player's got a price, haven't they? So
Yeah.
what would you do about Ben?
Mate, I've got a lot of admiration for him. He was when he broke through. I'm not just talking about his debut. We'll ignore his debut against City. That look at his first proper season. He did okay, but it was so error prone. I love the kid because he never gives up. He never gives up. That's one of the reasons why a lot of the fan base love him so much. Is he makes mistake after mistake, but he tries to atone for them as quickly as possible. But I'm torn in between letting him go to somewhere like Southampton, who's down in the Championship. It'd be great experience for him, or just let him go on a free the end of the next season, end of this season. It's a real hard one to figure out. It really, really is. But to be honest with you, we've got a lot more money than everybody's trying to say. We've talked about that many times. But yeah, he's a fringe utility player when it comes to defense, and the only reason I keep him is for sentimental reasons. He's an academy graduate. He's had a handful of appearances. He's doing well for the young England under-21s. He was in the squad that won it, if I remember correctly, wasn't he? So he's not a bad player in any shape or form.
No.
If we weren't looking to progress further up to that level than we currently are, we'd probably say keep him if we were having the same conversation 3 or 4 years ago. But we're not. We're looking at the bigger picture now, and as a result of it, I would have to let him go, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's tough, isn't it? I mean, James, is it a case of Ben's reached his ceiling and he needs to play somewhere else?
It's an hard one with Ben Johnson. I discussed this earlier, funny enough, with someone. With Ben, a few years ago, he was touted for big things. Arsenal, Liverpool, I think, were looking at him and everything. Yeah. And he slowly declined over the last few years. Now, what John's saying is absolutely spot on. In regards of being a utility player, this man plays everywhere. He hasn't got identified one position and nailed that one position, so to speak. Yeah. He doesn't want to sign a new contract at West Ham. It's quite easy to see that he just doesn't want to sign a new deal. He wants to be on the same money as Aaron Cresswell, who's been here for 9 years, and he wants to be paid like £60,000 a week, I think it is. So for me, I think just let Ben go. I think get a fee for him, let him go, because you've got to play. Do I really want a player here who doesn't really want to be it? Do you know what I'm saying? It's very easy to sort of say keep him and all that, but I want someone who's committed to West Ham. And for me, Ben should have wanted to leave last year, and West Ham have forced a 2-year extension on his current contract to sort of keep him here. West Ham are literally holding Ben here, to ransom to a point. So for me, I don't think it's a big miss if we was to let Ben Johnson go. If we was to let Ben Johnson go and we got 10, just say between 10 and 15 million for him, then I think it's worth letting him go. He just hasn't done it. And if you're the right back and you're the future, you should be overtaking Vladimir Sufal. And I just don't see how he does it at the minute, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, that's a good point, mate. Just got to switch to the other flank, and Aaron Cresswell's been linked again. I think Wolves again have been linked with him. I mean, this might be an easier one for us to decide what to do. I mean, James, he's got to go, hasn't
he? Yeah. Cresswell's been a good servant to West Ham. I make mine pretty short and sweet, but at the end of the day, all good things do come to an end, and I think West Ham need to go with younger players and stop being sentimental with players. I think that's the main thing. I think we get too sentimental with players, and we want to keep them here till they're 40 odd, and you just can't do it. Do you know what I'm saying? I think if he goes, it'd be sad, but he's been a good servant to West Ham. He's won a trophy at West Ham that he always remember. I don't think he would have done that anywhere else, really. He could have left a few years ago, and went to a bigger club, and he decided to stay with West Ham. So, you know what? Yeah, it's going to be a sad little moment for Cresswell to go, but I respect what he's done at West Ham because he's been a good servant.
Yeah, no, I completely echo that. And but the days of having maybe older fullbacks, you could get away with it in 2000 when we had Stuart Pearce and then followed by Nigel Winterburn. You could get away playing a 37-year-old at left back. Obviously, Aaron's couple of years younger, but like he got found out a few years ago when we played Wolves and he tried to hack down Adama Traore, and that was like a few years ago under Pellegrini, let alone now. So unfortunately, football and injuries have sort of caught up with Aaron, unfortunately. So would you echo that, JP?
Yeah, to a degree, mate. Yeah, I mean, I'd want to keep him in if we can't bring anybody else in or anyone through the ranks as a backup.
Yeah.
That's the only reason.
Yeah.
The only reason. Newcastle away last season was the evidence that his legs had gone. Unfortunately, he has it. He has it in every now and again. I mean, obviously James Ward-Prowse is in there for the corners and the free kicks. So yeah, I don't like the way. I was talking to a friend of mine about this recently, earlier today, actually. I don't like when players try force moves. I don't want players like that. It's hypocritical, granted, because I fucking love Demba Ba, and what did he do before we got him? So, that was but at the same point, yeah, I think, I mean, if I remember correctly, wasn't he linked with... Say again?
Does it discredit him a little bit for like all the years that he's done at West Ham? For him to force a move,
it's
now,
ungrateful. To a degree, it's ungrateful. I mean, because at the end of the day, if he didn't want to stay around, then he shouldn't have signed that year extension.
Great.
It's as simple as that. I mean, maybe they said, right, we'll activate the extension so we can sell you. It could be that as well.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
But yeah, no, you're absolutely right. It is. It's disrespect when you've been with that sort of company. If you're working for any business for that length of time, and then you hand your notice in and do fuck all for your notice period, and then it's but they'll just say no, just go jog on, But it was just, and it's to a degree, it should be the same way. It should be the same way. But at the same point, yeah, it is. It's for me, it's disrespectful. He was linked with Liverpool a few seasons ago. When he was at his pomp, but yeah, he's handled it again with the Lingard stuff, as you were hinting at, James, earlier. He's handled this really, really badly. And I'm sure he's he's apologised to the club and and everybody the way he's done it. And fair play, because life's all about chances. But at the same point, from the footballing point of view, if we're able to get somebody in who can play left back, then move him on. But that's not going to happen now. Maybe January, but it's not going to happen now.
So was that actually, before we move on, was that actually, I know there was rumours of him not turning up the training and stuff, was that actually confirmed as true then?
Well, yeah, X published it a couple of times out on the Patreon page that he was actually.
Oh, right, okay.
He was, and that's one of the reasons why he wasn't anywhere near the starting 11, because apparently to a lesser extent his head wasn't 100% there.
Yeah.
But it's not the way you want adults to behave at the end of the day.
And the thing is, like, just to sort of say this, when you are playing for West Ham, like, we need players who want to be like fit and firing for the shirt. Do you know what I mean? Because I said this the other day, funny enough, like, if Emerson goes down, we've got no left back, literally none. Like, and he would have been needed, and for him to go on the strike, I think it was just an insult, like, really, to the club. I understand if you're not happy, I get it, yeah, but you've still got a duty of care, and you've still got you still got to follow through with your role at the club. Like, he's one of the senior players. If he's acting like that, that's just not good.
Well, you could say the same thing about Fabianski, mate, on a couple of days after the Bournemouth game. Same problem.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it does tone it a little bit, but I still look back at Aaron's career as a really good set of years for us. And
Allardyce signing, let's not forget.
Yeah, that's not long ago it was, mate. Yeah, you're right. So, no, but it does tone it a little bit, but yeah, been a very good player, Aaron, I've got to say. Any other, there's probably a shitload of incomings and potential outgoings we could talk about. Any other names you want to talk about, lads?
Pablo Fornals, gentlemen.
Oh, yeah. Okay, go on then, mate.
1 year left. Talk to me, because I think he's got a busy year, basically, Pablo Fornals. Next summer is the Euros. And I think he's going to want to try and compete in that. Obviously, I heard something the other day about Betis. Might be looking at him. Pellegrini is still at Betis, and, could he want to go there? And obviously, with El Nesri at Seville, is that a possibility that he could go there? Just get your thoughts on Pablo Fornals.
Yeah, John, do you want to go first?
Again, I kind of think it's a bit of a lazy signing. It was a Pellegrini signing for us. So, and again, because he's a fringe player, two and two together and all that sort of stuff. But I would be heartbroken if we lost him. I really, really would. In the same vein that was heartbroken when Lanzini went. We knew it was coming. But Fornals is just another player when he comes on. Everybody seems to play better when he's around. And the thing is, if this run continues the way we started this season, where everybody's playing better, then he's going to be exactly like Lanzini and just come on as an impact sub and for fresh legs. And he deserves a hell of a lot more than that. He really, really does. I mean, I've loved him right from the start. I really have been a big advocate of him. But football's football, and it's a game that's constantly changing. And if he's not going to make more than a handful of the starts in the next 40, 50 games that we've got, then he's got no option but to move on, unfortunately. But like you're saying, James, he got married just after the Conference League final. So maybe his missus is going to want him to go back to Spain. On top of that. It's who knows without talking to him, who knows, but it would be a shame to see him going. But we're almost overloaded with midfielders this season, almost. So I think again that's the reason why, because unfortunately he won't class as a homegrown. So if you want to get another foreign player in, one of the foreign players is going to have to go. So I mean, Cornet actually wouldn't Cornet deem as homegrown? This time at Burnley, was he young enough to hit that quota?
No,
I think he was at Lyon,
I couldn't remember. But what are your thoughts on it, Bill?
Yeah, well, obviously, he's only been with us a few years. Pablo is obviously a cult hero, and he's obviously a good player as well. More importantly, and he's played some really key moments in the West Ham shirt for us under Moyes and Pellegrini when he signed him, but. You want players who care about the club, and he clearly does. And obviously, he's got the talent as well. But as you said, John, we're stacked in the midfield area, especially centrally, where he wants to play. It's his best position. But even out wide, he's struggling to get in the team now with Benrahma, and obviously got Kudos who can play out wide through the middle. We also Ward-Prowse and Alvarez, Souček, Paqueta. Do you know what I mean? Like Bowen and keep going. So, and you only got one career, and obviously he wants to play more regularly for Spain. And is he going to start many games for us in the league? I don't see it with West Ham with squad depth. But still, we do now. Thankfully, at last, took us a while, but we got there. What meaningful games is he going to play in the league? Probably play your Europa League game, Carabao Cup. That's obviously we've got Lincoln. He probably play that sort of game, but at what games is he going to play at the highest level to force his way into again another stacked Spanish squad? Do you know what I mean? So for his career, it'd be probably best for him personally if he was to maybe move on and get a loan. But if you're asking me as a West Ham fan, I'd definitely keep him. I think he will get game time. I mean, I don't want him to go, but as a footballer, you've got one career, haven't you? So you can't blame him for leaving anyway. But,
quick question, Bill.
Yeah.
X stated up on Patreon earlier today that apparently quite a number of Premier League players are being offered to the club at the moment. So for you guys, who would you to try and keep the homegrown quota from that point of view? Who would you guys like to see out of a Premier League club come to the club in the next day? It's a real brain scratcher. It really is.
Oh dear. Well, while we're thinking of that, I'll think of some answers. James, should we just touch on Fornals? You're the one who asked us.
Sorry, it's a tricky one for me.
No, that's all right. No. Good question.
Because the thing is, he's always been this sort of debate with the Benrahma, Fornals, which one for the left-hand side. And I've always backed Dennis ever since he arrived at West Ham. I've always said he's going to be a quality player for us. And I think he gets a lot of stick sometimes, rightfully so, some rightfully not so. Pablo Fornals, I'd be quite sad, mate. That's coming from me, and I'm not his biggest fan because what I like about him is he's enthusiastic for the club. When people come to the club, he's a gentleman. That's what he is, and to lose him right now would be a bit of a blow to a point. And I think it could rock us a little bit because losing Deck is one thing, but then losing a man who, let's be honest, is sort of idolised by a lot of West Ham fans is some things you can just not let go I think West Ham need to do the right thing, get rid of Cornet out of this side and keep Fornals. The only problem is you've got 1 year left, and if he ain't going to sign a deal, you have also got to look at it from a financial point of view. West Ham can't afford to have people on 1 year deals running their contracts down, let them go for 3 next
FFP
season.
and stuff as well, James, as well. It's got to be taken into consideration.
Exactly that. So
there you go, mate. Here's a question for you, James. Would you be happy if he signed a contract extension in January, which is a possibility still if he stays?
100%, mate. I want the strongest West Ham team possible, and I think he's the sort of player that can come on and do something. He's not a first team starter though for me. Like when I do look at West Ham as a whole right now, and you look at players who can play in that position. Ward-Prowse can play as a 10, Paqueta as the 10. Do you know what I'm saying? Even on the left. Do you know what I mean? But we are going to need players like to stay and literally have squad depth because we can't. We've got 4 competitions, and basically we're going to have to try and like rotate these competitions all over the place. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So for me, I'd keep him. If he does go, I just hope it doesn't affect the morale of the whole squad. Like because you're taking a man out of there who, let's be honest, he's become like a cult hero at West Ham. Really has.
Totally. Yeah, no, bang on. Let's go to the chat quickly. So, hell, thanks, mate. Alex Scott missed the window. Oh, what a signing he would have been. Would he go Bournemouth in the end?
He did, yeah. And I don't actually remember anybody talking about him since the start of the season.
No, I think he's injured. I think they're missing a couple.
There's a surprise.
Yeah. So,
Dodge, bullet well and truly dodged from that point of view.
So we'll go to that question. Thanks, John. That was a really good question. So was that? Do you say who would we take out of the Premier League sides for the homegrown quota? Would you say?
Yeah.
Well, there's a couple that spring to mind realistically to go with. I don't think they'll get rid of him, but Guehi from Palace straight away, centre back. I think. Who else do I have an eye on? I think Newcastle. I think in terms of the fullback area, he'd be a really good backup. His Target, Matt Target. He's can't get in the same because Dan Burns the star. Oh, what a shout, Russ! If this was realistic enough, Emil Smith Rowe, be all over that. But I don't see that. I mean, it was a great shout. That kind of play would be amazing. But I'm just trying to keep the realism down a little bit. Yeah, there's a couple.
Well, he's an Arsenal fan. He's going to be a fantasist, isn't he?
Yeah, so there's 2 names. I'm sure I'm going to try and think of some others. But James, you must have a few.
Ian Maatson homegrown? The Chelsea left back. I know
that might be a shout. He's been at the
I think he was. I think it's one of the reasons why we've been looking at him.
Yeah, that'd be a shout.
I would be all over him big time. I was up in Burnley about 6 weeks ago, up there for a few weeks. We had to do with work and stuff, and I was speaking to a lot of Burnley fans up there, and they rave about this man quite a lot. They think he's really extremely good. He was with them last season with their sort of promotion push in regards to getting to the Premier League. I would definitely take him all day. I think Broja could be another one on the cards. If you look at Broja and you think, is he the man for West Ham? Well, obviously Chelsea have got Chelsea are going after like major strikers, like they've got Nicholas Jackson in there. I don't think Broja would get a look in. Do you know what I'm saying? At Chelsea, if I'm being honest, I think he's got more chance at West Ham. So I would probably go for them two, maybe even Chalobah, but Chalobah's too dear.
I'm just about to say, James, beat me to it. Yeah. But he's been linked with a move away. Yeah.
So there's a few, especially from Chelsea. I can't really think of anyone anywhere else. Maybe Man City might have a few players in their academy or something, but I don't really see anyone else really.
Go on then, John. Who have you thought of? I mean, this is the problem because the majority of the ones I've been thinking about, you guys have already mentioned. You know,
Maguire, sorry, from Man United, obviously.
Yeah, no, but that's ship sailed as far as I'm concerned in more ways than one, unfortunately.
I know, but you asked who we would take. I would take Maguire if.
Yeah.
Obviously.
Okay. Yeah.
Oh, what a shout! Sorry, John. Why are you still thinking Cole? Oh, Cole Palmer would obviously be one, but it looks like he's going Chelsea. That's great sign.
Wages again. And the Machismo playing for a team that's going to finish 9th again. But
We're on 12, isn't it?
well, it's progression from one point of view.
Progression, yeah, for £1 billion, yeah.
But yeah, I mean, the only voice that the name that comes to my head when it is I should say was, because he's 27 now, it's Damari Gray, but we're overloaded with those sort of positions now. I would have taken him. It's difficult because to a lesser extent, I would like the Man United striker that we were linked with early in the window, but that disappeared very quickly. Who was
Martial.
it? Huh?
It's about Martial.
Martial, yeah. I think he could have done a bit of a service for us, but other than that, I can't really name a player other than the ones that you guys have already mentioned. I mean, it's disappointing. We could have bought, if we were West Ham a few seasons ago, we could have bought Junior Stanis back for a season. Junior Stanis back for a season, but he got released because he got released by Bournemouth, didn't he? So, but yeah, there aren't. I've been thinking about it all day since X put that up on Patreon. And I really, other than the names you guys have mentioned, I can't really think of anybody.
It's a brilliant shout by Ross Mitchell from
Mitchell.
Palace, the left back.
It's a lot of money.
Yeah, it would be, but yeah, and I actually another forward just forward from Forest would be he's a Welsh national is Brennan Johnson.
Mate.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, we ain't getting him, but yeah, he'd be one would certainly look. Is there any other names you want to talk about, lads, before we preview Luton?
No, we're good.
We spent about half an hour talking about the ingoings and outgoings. So, right, let's finish off with Luton Town preview. Obviously, great story with Luton. If you guys and anyone watching the fall and rise of Luton it's on Sky, but it's on YouTube, on their YouTube channel. I really, really recommend it. Brilliant story. First club ever to get promoted from non-league all the way to the Premier League. It's a great story. It'd be their first top flight home game in 30 years or whatever it is. So, I mean, James, obviously, for me, if they played at home a few times and this was like a Saturday, 3:00, I would say, and the form is the same, I would say West Ham all day long. However, Friday night under the lights, first home game, they're direct football, small pitch. This will be tougher than what I think it'd be a tougher game than what people think.
I think so. I'm not expecting an easy game against Luton, especially after last year when Forest appeared and we threw everything at them and we just couldn't get the goal. I've looked at Luton in 2 games. They played 2 pretty decent sides that we've beat, like in Brighton and Chelsea. They had the Burnley game called off because of obviously their ground wasn't up to scratch at the time. The only thing I will say is I look at them and I don't see a Premier League like sort of side there. I think they are like they're Premier League merit, but they're not a Premier League side. I think it's going to be tough if West Ham can ride the wave for a little while, get into the game, get Kudus on the pitch. I think we've got every chance to win this game. I did look at the sort of betting odds on this game, and the bookies are quite being fair with West Ham, thinking West Ham are just under even money to go and win this game. And I think the way we've played, I expect West Ham to go there and really do a job on Luton. But this is West Ham, and it's never like that.
Exactly. What are your thoughts, John?
I agree. I don't think this is going to be the walkover that everybody expects in any shape or form. One thing I do take issue with is the fact that how can Luton's ground be perfect for the Championship yet not adequate for the Premier League? And it's because it was just the camera sections. That's it. That really irritates me. And fair play to them. Building a stand in 12 weeks straight, that's an achievement. I'll give them massive credit for that. It's a really, really. I don't think when I don't think a first floor of a house is raised in that length of time. Much less.
Yeah.
Good one in Ketchup.
Yeah,
Good one.
Yeah.
Yep. Russ is recommending all the players he doesn't want at Arsenal. By the looks of it, but you know they've got some good players. I watched some of the Chelsea game, and Luton, as I said in my preview, I feel sorry for them because I don't think they're giving it as good as a go as I thought they would do. They look pretty decent. They look very compact, as you're saying, James. They're looking quite coordinated together. Whether that will be enough with a confident West Ham side is what we'll find out tomorrow. But I don't think it's going to be a 4 or 5-0 that I'm sure some people are saying because of how well we've been playing.
Yeah.
I do think the small pitch will help in some ways for us but at the same point, yeah, James, you're absolutely right. Get Kudus in there, and he could actually tear him apart because nobody's going to know what he's going to be able to do. People don't know what Alvarez can do yet. Yeah. You know, this is the thing. That's why it's one of the reasons why I quite like as irritating as it can be. It's one of the reasons why I quite like we get deals for players towards the end of the window because nobody knows what they're going to do. You know, including ourselves a lot of the time. So there could be the unknown quantity there, but yeah, it's odds on to win. At the end of the day, I'll take giving City 2 points to try and jump back over us on the start of Saturday. So I'd love that, and of course, you know, if that happens and City do a City, then you know our next home game after the international break is going to be called a title decider already. You know, it's just
about the start of the season.
Exactly right. That's what I'm saying. Yeah. It would be. I mean that you can't get much more shithouse than that, can you? And 4 games in, West Ham and Man City top the table, 2 points between the two of them. But yeah, no, it'll be interesting. It'll be a fun one. It'll be a fun game to watch. I think for many reasons. A lot of people will be nostalgic for looking at an old school football ground again. Because we hard with the exception of like Palace and Fulham, we don't really get that much in the Premier League anymore. Yeah,
the away fans about was it 1,100 who were going tomorrow night? They'll be waving at Maureen back garden fucking tomorrow night. I'll be fucking surreal seeing.
Give us a cup of tea. Give us a cup.
Exactly.
Of tea.
Yeah. Instead of queuing up for or bacon butter or whatever, they'll just like shout over. Can you make us stuff for us? Queuing up and paying 7-8 quid for the privilege. One player that has joined Luton a couple of weeks ago, which could be a masterstroke or could be a complete flop. Depends on which player they'll get. Is Ross Barkley, who joined, let's say, a couple of weeks ago. I mean, John, that's an interesting sign. Obviously, he was a top player at Everton, but ever since he joined Chelsea, you know, his career's just taken a nosedive, really.
Yeah, I mean, because he went out to Nice, didn't he? That's where they got him from.
Yeah.
Yeah, completely out of the blue. I remember when whoever it was put it in our group chat, Bill was like, "Hang on, what? Where the hell did that come from?"
I did. A picture of him and Rob Edwards, the manager, and he's barely cracked a smile. I was like, "This is where I fucking come to, Luton." I know it's Prem, but still, do you know what I mean?
I mean, it's a great statement of intent from that point of view. You know, it's to say that, you know, we want to stay here, we want to stay in the Premier League. I mean, let's not forget that the last time we played them in the league was 30 odd years ago. But yeah, no, I think Barkley's going to have something to prove. For the reasons you've literally just stated there, Bill. That you know, it was a failed move to Chelsea. Again, I don't think it was his fault. From what he was doing, he didn't look anything out of the ordinary. It's just it wasn't the right club for him. Very surprised that he left Nice. I thought he would have done all right over there, but it's the way football goes. But yeah, he could be a bit of a handful tomorrow night.
No, yeah, see how it goes. He's played against Chelsea, but they hardly had the ball, Luton, so it's hard to really judge him on that performance. But I mean, James, I mean, he's probably the one player that Luton have got in their squad where obviously he's got Prem experience, stacked with Prem experience, but can actually pick out a pass and, you know, because I think they're quite direct. So I think it's Morris, the striker, scored a few goals last season in the Championship. So he offers something a bit different. He'll play those through balls to, I think Giles is one to look out for. Ryan Giles, he played well at Middlesbrough under Michael Carrick last season on loan. So Barkley, obviously not as a striker, but he offers a point of difference to the other members of their squad, probably.
I was quite shocked. Like when I found out about that, I was quite surprised that Ross Barkley decided to sign for Luton. Yeah, again, it's another signing that he was a name a few years ago, goes to a big club, flops at the big club, and then he has to sort of go around to 2 other clubs to try and recover his career. Do you know what I'm saying? Yeah. Good player, but I think he's the best one out of the lot when you look at him. Do you know what I mean? For the standard that he is. If you get the Ross Barkley of Everton, then you've got a very good player. If you get the Ross Barkley of Nice, I don't think you're going to get the player that he once was. He can cause problems. He likes a shot, Ross Barkley, and he's going to be leading by example. And the thing is with Luton, they are going to give it a go at Kenilworth Road. That's one thing I will say. We can all
get a few wins there. Just hope not tomorrow night, obviously.
Yeah, and that's the only thing. But yeah, I think it's a good signing for them. I think it's a good signing, but I just don't think they've got enough. I just hope they don't get destroyed in every game. Like I've noticed the last 2 games they've conceded like 4s and 3. I think 3 against Chelsea, 4 against Brighton.
Yeah.
So they're conceding goal after goal after goal. I don't want to see them get hammered every week, but let's just hope we can get
pun intended there, James. Yeah, getting hammered.
Unintended indeed.
All right, let's talk about West Ham quickly. So, James, would you keep it the same lineup for tomorrow night, or would you obviously because Aguero's back from suspension, would you throw him back in instead of Bonner? Any other changes you'd consider?
Well, there's no Souček because he's got a concussion thing, isn't he? So he's out of action. So you're probably going to see Alvarez, JWP, and Paqueta as a 3-man attack. I expect West Ham to be on the front foot tomorrow night and really go at Luton to a point. I don't expect West Ham to sit deep and soak up pressure and try and hit him on the break. I liked Alvarez the other day, but I would like to see him as a central sort of DM where he sits as a DM and not keep going in from midfield to defence. I can understand against Brighton, but this is Luton, and I want to see him a bit more as the enforcer that he is. I think Bowen will play. I think Antonio plays unless he's leaving. He's got to play, and I think Ben Rama come on the other day and really done well. So I'd start with a 4-3-3. Obviously, Nath comes back into the team for me. I think Mavropanos might not make it, but if he does,
right, he's out till middle of September because of his back injury.
Yeah, so if he's not about, then now for Gued, it's a straightforward swap. Even though people are calling for a Bonner, I'm like, no, let's put Nathan there with Kurt Zuma, and let's do it properly. And if you want to take players off, obviously we've got the international break coming up. By all means, we'll do that.
Yeah, I think I'd bring a Gued back in, and apart from that, I'd keep it the same as when Souček went off. Obviously, Benny come on; he was really impressive. So I'd keep that lineup, and then just bring Aguero back in. What would you do, John?
Yeah, pretty much. I've got in the preview. I did this as a 4-2-3-1, which you can rotate into a 4-3-3 anyway. So that's from that point of view. Yeah, Aguero's back in my starting 11. Obviously, Soufal's going to be there as well. Emerson, Zuma, and Aguero, as I said. Obviously, we're going to have Areola keeping behind between the sticks as well, for that matter. It's a tough one. I mean, I do kind of think that the likes of like Paquetá and Albert Alvarez and Emerson, for that matter, those the foreign players, even though I'm including Zuma in that because obviously didn't grow up with British football. I think those guys are going to struggle a little bit with the small pitch, but you never know. It could turn to their advantage at the same time, especially the way that those players like to keep the ball in front in as much as possible. So, but yeah, it's the starting 11 bar Kudus pretty much writes itself, really. I think he's going to come on as a magic sub at some point. But yes, James, you're absolutely right. Souček's out with a concussion; he won't be free till the City game. But yeah, it's going to be as long as it's a strong squad, and he's not going to. And Moyes isn't going to try and use this as a reason to try 3 at the back. Because I think against with a team against Luton, as great as it is for attacking, as great as it is for defending, I don't think this is the right game for that formation. I really don't.
Yeah, I would agree. And how do you think Moyes will play it, lads? I'll leave the floor open. Do you think he'll go as defensive as against Brighton, or surely we'll push up the pitch a bit more?
I mean, I kind of think that this, you could argue the cliche, this fixture suits Moyes. It's his style, it's his type of football. But at the same point, you could use this as an example to try and push it, gets a little bit more, stop soaking up so much the opposition's attack and try and go at them and see what we can be like as an attacking side, but obviously not too much. You can't go from defending and hitting teams on the break for 3 goals and then next time round go out and absolutely try and smash the team. It shouldn't be like that. It should be a slow progression. But yeah, I do think this will be a proper test in terms of Moyes' balance between how he used to manage and how he's trying to manage now.
It's a really good point for you. And you, James?
It's a big test for Moyes, this one. I want to see him sort of rotate in a way that we are on the front foot in this game. I do. I understand it against Brighton. Don't get me wrong. We're playing a team that we've never beaten, right, in the Premier League, and he set up in a way to try and counter them and basically work to our strength. Against Luton, if we invite pressure onto Luton, and we are very good on the break, but I would like to see us be a bit more proactive early. Do you know what I mean? Like get the ball, get up the pitch, and really have a go at them.
Yeah, quiet that crowd, eh?
I think that is the key thing. First goal also is massive in this game.
Yeah,
I think if West Ham go a goal behind, then
that noise is going to be biblical, mate. If that happens.
But also, you've got to look at this. If we go a goal behind, then we are going to have to come out. We are going to we can't sit back and allow teams just to jump on us. So I think it's a big game for Moyes. This game really is the game where I will know where West Ham are at. For me personally, I think what we've done in the first 3 has been very, very good. I think this one, we are the favourites. We're expected to go there and win. I think we do win, but it ain't going to be easy. But I just want to see just a little bit more, like just something else that I haven't seen. And if I see it and I'm happy, then I'm going to be over the moon.
Yeah. No, definitely right. Well, was it hour and 7 minutes? Absolutely flown by. So, no, thanks for your time again, lad. So we'll just finish off quickly with your score predictions. So, James, you go first.
I think we get the job done in Luton. I think West Ham are on a different side, and as I said earlier on, I think I'm starting to see a different side altogether, all round the pitch. I think the sign of Kudus coming in is brilliant. I think he starts on the bench, but then he comes on. And if he comes on and be the player that we all think he's going to be, then I think we're going to be very good. I understand what John was saying earlier about West Ham smashing this team, but I think if we score early and Luton have to really put it on to us, it works in our favour. First goal.
Yeah, I don't think we will, mate. I really don't think we will. I know loads of people are thinking that, but I really don't think it's going to be as open as everyone thinks.
But I'm going to go with sort of a respectful 2-0 win. I think West Ham score. I think West Ham sit there and do what they usually do, invite pressure, and I think West Ham will hit them on the break again and score another goal. If West Ham are on it tomorrow night, West Ham win this game. Simple as that.
Yeah, that's spot on. I completely agree. Right. Well, I'll certainly say with 2-0. I think both teams will score, but I think we'll do them 2-1. John?
Yeah, no, agreed. If there's a couple of players we need to look out for. You touched on it earlier. Morris, I've got a funny feeling him and Adebayo, who's quick, he's pretty good in the air. Morris is quite good at winning aerial duels as well, so we've got to be careful of that when they've got corners and stuff. But at least from the research I've been doing on them. So, but yeah, I agree. I'm just sitting thinking 2-1. There's no way in hell we're keeping a clean sheet. It's West Ham at the end of the day. We can't do it. We just generally can't do it. I'd love it. Don't get me wrong, James. I would love the fact that I think that's one of the reasons why Areola went mental when Ross scored. He's like, well, clean sheet bonus. Come on, guys. And if we are going to do it, Luton is definitely odds on for a clean sheet. But I'm agreeing with you, mate. Russ, what have you been smoking?
Yeah, I'll totally take that, Ross. Don't get me wrong, but
but yeah, a 2-1 or a 3-1, maybe that sort of thing. Have a nice little couple extra plus goal difference points would be great.
Well, I've swapped to Areola in my fantasy Premier League, so I definitely hope we keep a clean sheet. All right, well, nice one. Well, John, James, appreciate your time. Thanks for joining, lads, and we'll catch you soon, and hopefully, those 3 points, eh? So, thanks everyone for watching as well. Subscribe to Garage Football if you're new. Subscribe to John and James's channels. Links in the description below, and we'll see you soon. All the best. Take care.